Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined by Josh Bilicki, the driver of the number 77 Chevrolet for Spire Motorsports. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great. We announced our Spire deal last week, a full week ago today. So it's been a crazy week. Been to Daytona, been to Charlotte. It's already been a great week with Spire. They've welcomed me with open arms. And it's not unfamiliar territory either, because we got a couple people that I've worked with in the past over there, including Reed and also Peter Suspenzo, who was my crew chief last year at the Daytona 500. So, like I said, not really unfamiliar territory, but at the same time, it's definitely a new beginning, and I'm really looking forward to that.
So I know that you're not going to be racing all of the races, but you're going to be in a lot of them. Actually, most of the races in the 77. Talk about how that would work and how many races you plan on running.
Yeah, so I'll be in the majority of the season. The deal came together actually pretty late. We had another deal on the table that we were kind of working for a couple of months. And really, I mean, this deal came together really 3 or 4 weeks ago, to be honest. So, silly season definitely starts a lot earlier than that in the year. So just unfortunately, we couldn't put together a full-time program, but even with our strong schedule, and I mean, it'll be the majority of the races, it's definitely a step up from where I was last year. I feel that just the people I'm surrounded with over there, they've won races in lower divisions and they know what it takes to be successful. They grind, but at the same time, they're very organized over there. And I'm learning that, in multiple different ways. So just like I said, definitely a step up, even though it's not full time. Last year was my first full time season. Still, just running the majority of the season in Cup with Spire is definitely a step up for me. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. So when I know you'll be at Auto Club, that is your first scheduled race, and it's definitely going to be around. Would you say maybe 28 to 30 races, give or take?
I'd say probably a little less than that, but it's like I said, it's the majority of the season. It's going to be anywhere from 19 to 25 races on the Cup side. And then we're also going to have some other fun plans too. So I wouldn't necessarily say Auto Cup's going to be my first race of the year. It'll be my first Cup race of the year, though.
Right. So we'll obviously get to those plans. They'll be announced later on. But let's talk about this opportunity that you got when working with Corey LaJoie, your teammate, and everyone with Jeff and TJ and everybody at Spire. What's that been like to what kind of sold you coming here?
Yeah, so I think TJ and I really started talking, I'd say late last year. To be honest, I mean, we never really met until we started talking and texting back and forth a little bit. I knew who he was, and same with Jeff too. They're both very respected individuals. I've driven for Spire in the past in the 77 car, 2 races in 2020 as well. So I knew some of the people around there, but like I said, different crew chief. Kevin wasn't in the Cup Series yet. It was still Kevin or Peter Suspenzo. I'm sorry. So, yeah, just the conversation started and just kept growing. And I started to know TJ, Jeff Dickerson, and then also Philip, who works for Spire Agency on the agency side. He's really the one that kind of put this whole deal together. So if it weren't for Philip, I probably wouldn't be here. But definitely super appreciative. And like I said, just working with Spire just for this last week, and a couple of weeks prior to that too, just they're organized. I see a lot of potential here for growth. Hopefully it's with me, for the next handful of years. But also I see a lot of growth on the team side too. They're thinking big picture and what it takes. And, it's not going to happen overnight. Hendrick Motorsports wasn't built overnight, but I see them taking that similar approach.
And of course, the Philip you're referring to is Philip Smalley.
Correct.
So let's talk about, going into, I know that you're going to be doing a lot of things this year. I know you can't talk about a lot of the other stuff you're doing, but how exciting is it to get a lot of these opportunities that you have?
I'm very excited. And I think this year, my mentality going into this season is quality over quantity. Where in the past, I've just tried to race every single truck race, Xfinity race, Cup race I could. This year, I'm definitely going to be a little bit more careful about the races that I race, we want to be competitive. And like I said, we want to make sure it's quality over quantity. We could have taken our budget and ran a full-time Xfinity program, a full-time truck program. We could have gone full-time cup racing, to be honest. But like I said, I felt that to develop my career was best to go the Spire route. And even though it's not a full-time season, still majority of the races, up to 25 races, that's still a lot on the cup side too. It's going to be a learning curve for sure with this next gen car. But to be honest, I've driven a lot of different types of cars that have a similar feel. Since my background is road course racing, this car, in my opinion, it's essentially a road race car, and we're going to make it work on ovals. So, it wasn't very unfamiliar driving it, even though the first time I drove it was last week in Daytona, last week, Tuesday. It didn't surprise me. There was nothing really about the car that surprised me other than some silly little things like the really stiff throttle pedal. But aside from that, we're just going in really with the expectation to learn and grow and develop this relationship between myself and my crew chief, myself and the team, but also learn this car. And like I said, hopefully we can turn this thing into a 2023 full-time program. And I think we can do that.
So let's talk about the next gen car. You got a chance to test that at Daytona last week. What was that experience like for you?
It was cool. So I've never been a part of any actual tests like that. I've driven a couple other cars on the road course side in tests, but never a NASCAR official test. And to drive the 7 car was pretty cool because of Alan Bilicki back in the day. Obviously, he drove the 7. But just to be a part of that organization, I learned a lot, even just watching Corey and we had another driver in the car too, just watching those two drive in the draft and just hearing all the other Chevy teammates, whether it's William Byron, Ricky Stenhouse, hearing all their comments and seeing them on the track too, I learned a lot. So definitely a really beneficial experience for sure. But it's just cool to drive at Daytona too and make your first laps of the next gen car at Daytona. That was pretty epic.
Will you be in the Daytona 500?
I will not be in the Daytona 500. So like I said, my first Cup Series race is the Auto Club race.
Okay. And so, you could still be at Daytona in some capacity. Is that still possible?
Yes, it's definitely still possible. We're working on a couple different options right now. I think we're really close. Daytona is definitely the start to the season. Everybody wants to be there. But like I said, quality over quantity. We're not going to go there and, get a ride where we're worried about making the race even. We want to go there and have a fighting chance to actually win the race, whether it's in the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series. And, I'm not opposed to running an open car too in Cup, but the problem with that is there's only so many chassis available. Had it been last year, I definitely for sure would have been in the 500 in an open car, and we probably would have had a really well put together program. Just that the problem with this year is there's so low on chassis counts between every team, even the big teams too. To hear some of the conversations some of the big teams are having, like Hendrick, all the big teams really, they're having the same conversations as we are, where we have to preserve these chassis and we need to be smart. So it's interesting to hear that. But like I said, quality over quantity this year. I'll be at Daytona for sure. I don't know if I'll be driving yet, but we're aiming towards being in the seat on Friday or Saturday.
Right. So let's talk about, I know that, your home track, Road America. You're from Wisconsin. Actually, I just had Culver's for lunch today, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, heck yeah.
Had some cheese curds at that. That was
good.
Pretty good.
Very good.
Yes. So talk about racing in your home state. The Cup Series went to Road America for the first time ever. Of course, you're from Wisconsin. How big of a deal was that for you?
So Road America has a very, very special place in my heart. For one, I've raced go-karts on that track, on the big track. They have a go-kart track inside, but I actually drove on the big track on go-karts when I was, I think, 11 or 12. So, I started out pretty young on the big track. I made my first professional start on road course racing at Road America in IMSA 2015. 2016, I made my first Xfinity Series start. So my first ever NASCAR start was at Road America. And then obviously with the Cup Series coming there last year, it was really, really cool. It was the biggest event and the most fans ever at Road America. To be honest, I think it was the largest sporting event ever in the state of Wisconsin. I heard upwards of 180, 190,000 people. So I thought that was awesome for our sport. We're on track for another 4th of July weekend this year, which is going to be super exciting. I think, a lot of people plan a weekend around it. Road America, the facility itself could be a campground. Like, honestly, I could just go there and just camp without even cars on the racetrack. So It's beautiful. So if anybody wants to experience a new track and hasn't been to Road America, I definitely recommend Road America. This year it's going to be cool. Back in the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series there. So yeah, it's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And last thing I want to ask you, you kept you had like one of those seasons where you didn't perform as well, but you kept the car on the racetrack, you stayed out of trouble. How are you able to do that?
Yeah, so I think you just need to manage your expectations when you drive for a small team like we did last year. And you need to look at the big goal, which is to finish races. You know, I think we got almost everything out of the car that we could, but at the same time, I'm not going to push, that extra 10% or 5% to where now we are wrecking. It's very important for us to finish races, and you saw that. I mean, we were the highest placing worker racing car out of the four cars, even though we were the fastest. We probably spent the less, and we were the highest placing car out of season points. And it didn't just happen by chance. We were smart. I think Daytona is a good example of that. Me and BJ McLeod, we drafted the whole race together. We stayed smart. We didn't want to put ourselves in any bad position, and we ended up coming out 9-10. So just like I said, knowing your expectations going into the race, knowing what your goal is. There are races where we race really hard. I mean, Road America, Indianapolis, the road courses, I felt like I gave it my all, and we were actually pretty competitive there. But there's also some races on ovals where you just know you're going to be a 30th place car, a 32nd place car, and you have to just survive. And like I said, we did that. I know we finished like the last 31 or 32 races. Unfortunately, the only DNFs we had all year were mechanical failures at the beginning of the year. So I'm a little bit bummed about that, but that's out of my control.
All right. Well, Josh Bilicki, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. Good luck this season. We'll definitely have you on again sometime, and maybe we'll talk about that announcement that you'll have in a few weeks too.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, man.